Welcome back to Biomes, and if you are like me, you are probably well and deep into North Sea TikTok, so let's talk about that. So the North Sea is predictably up north and is located pretty much smack dab around Britain, Norway, Germany, Netherlands, all that. So the North Sea has gained fame all over the app here for being kind of nuts. It's very unpredictable in its weathers and kind of tides and conditions overall, has massive waves, it's super cold, it's kind of nuts. If you're not on North Sea TikTok, go check it out because it's kind of insane. And lots of things that I haven't heard talked about on here. It's always the weather and the waves. I haven't heard very many people talk about the biodiversity of the North Sea because it is a booming area. There is so much stuff going on. Starting right off at the bottom of the food chain, there is a bunch of different seaweeds, or racks as they're locally called, such as this one, which is the bladder rack. And seaweed is not actually a type of plant, it is a type of algae, which, again, algae is not plants, algae are protists. So yeah, this up here, not a plant. It is an algae protist, so lots of people don't know that. Most people assume, like I assumed for a long while, that seaweed was a plant, but it's not. And this is bladder rack, like I said before, and it's actually edible and used a lot in medicine and just eating. So, love that. There's a ton of different types of seaweed, but this is one of the most common ones. This is, and I apologize for the pronunciation, it's an Irish word and I do not have the accent for this, marl? It's another type of algae, but this time it's red. It's pretty common around the Ireland and Britain coasts and stuff, so another type of algae. Not technically seaweed, just a different algae, so a different protist. There's also a ton of invertebrates found here, such as this coral. So most people think of corals as being tropical and like in warm waters, such as like the Great Barrier Reef, but there are actually a bunch of cold water corals, such as this one, the dead man's finger coral. So corals are an essential part of every ecosystem that they're found, and the North Sea is no different. There are cold water coral reefs up there, which I personally think is just so cool. There's also a good variety of sea anemones which are related to corals, such as this dahlia or dahlia, depends on where you're from, anemone. There's also a sizable population, like considering, of the sunflower sea star, which is one of the rarest types of sea stars. There's a ton of different types of sea stars, but sunflower ones specifically are really cool because for one, they're absolutely massive, and for two, they're pretty rare, so it's kind of cool that you can find them up in the North Sea. You can also find the largest jellyfish in the world, the lion's mane jellyfish, as well as a couple other varieties. But these guys, again, biggest jellyfish in the world, absolutely massive. I think a little bit bigger than any jellyfish has any right to be. And they also have a pretty nasty sting, so y'all really don't want to be touching these guys. Just another fun little spicy bit to have in the already kind of fucked up waters of the North Sea. There's also larger stuff there. Well, not that the lion's mane jellyfish was small, but there's a good population of seals, such as the gray seal. This is probably the most common species of seal that you would encounter in and around the North Sea. You can also find a variety of dolphin species, most commonly the bottlenose dolphin, but there's a few different types of them. Whales, you can also find a few different species of whale, such as the humpback whale like this one, but you can also find minke whales and right whales, so there's a good few species of whale found there, which is pretty neat. There's a metric fuck ton of different fish species that can be found there. There's a lot of species commonly caught for food, such as salmon, cod, and haddock. Fishing is a very big industry in and around the North Sea because there's so many commonly caught fish species there, so it's one of a very big exports that come out of the North Sea, along with like oil and shit. There's also a good variety of shark species that have been found there, most commonly dogfish, catfish, and porbeagle sharks, but other shark species have been spotted around there but less commonly, such as the blue shark, the thresher shark, and the Greenland shark, but most of the sharks that are around there are these smaller dogfish species. There's also a variety of weirder fish that can be found, such as the Atlantic hagfish, a favorite here on this account. Love the hagfish. There's also a pretty decent population of eels, such as the European eel and the conger eels, as well as in the shallower waters, some pipefish and seahorse, which are usually not expected to be found here by, I think, the majority of people. There's also a good variety of rays there too, some stingrays and other things like skates. I could honestly make an entire separate 10-minute long video about all the different types of fish that are found in the North Sea, but some more notable ones include like tuna, flounder, mackerel, a bunch of goby species. There's also been appearances of some more like weird deep sea fish, such as the oarfish occasionally, and some things like the wolffish. There's also records of there being things like snailfish and anglerfish, which are the slightly more deep sea fish, as well as some ocean sunfish, you know, those big motherfuckers. And there's also many seabirds there. Birds are very common, such as the skua here, as well as a ton of different gull species. Atlantic puffins are often seen around there. I love puffins. They're great. I made a whole video on puffins, but they can be found fishing out around the North Sea. They live around the coasts of countries that border the North Sea. There's also quite often found gannets, such as this guy. Very pretty bird. I like these. As well as cormorants and terns. But yeah, the North Sea is absolutely booming with biodiversity, and I think it's just super interesting because whenever you hear the North Sea on TikTok, it's like that one pirate sound, the yo-ho, whatever, and it's just the waves and shit, but there's so much happening in and around the North Sea. It's absolutely super cool.